The Mississippi River, a giant ribbon of water, snakes its way through the heart of America, bringing life and commerce to the states it touches. But this river was more than just a waterway. It was a lifeline in a time of war, a strategic treasure the North fought hard to control. For the state of Mississippi, nestled in the river's embrace, this war meant more than just battlefields. It was a struggle that would shape its future for generations. During the Civil War, the mighty Mississippi was the key to victory. Lincoln saw it that way, a crucial artery that, if controlled, could choke the life out of the Confederacy. Vicksburg, a city perched on a hill overlooking the river, was like a fortress guarding the North's path south. It was here that General Ulysses S. Grant, a name that would become synonymous with victory, laid siege to the city. For 7 weeks the town endured, but on July 4, 1863, it fell. This victory was a turning point. It allowed the North to take command of the river and ultimately the war. Yet victory came at a great cost. The war left the South in ruins, with a deep wound that would take decades to heal. The death toll was staggering, around 750,000 lives lost, with many more injured. The economy lay in shambles, and the dream of freedom for slaves was just the beginning of a long, hard journey. Emancipation did not automatically mean a life of prosperity or happiness for Black Americans. In Mississippi, the aftermath of the war brought new challenges. The land, once worked by slaves on massive plantations, was broken into smaller plots. Black tenant farmers worked this land, hoping to eke out a living, but the system was rigged. They worked hard, but the profits were slim, trapped in a cycle that kept them poor. This disparity in wealth between Black and white citizens is a scar that remains open to this day. Let's take a closer look at Mississippi itself, a state as vast as half of the UK, with its rolling, low-lying lands dipping below 1,000 feet. The highest point, Woodall Mountain, stands at a modest 807 feet. It's a state where the blues found its voice, born from the pain and hopes of a people. The slaves brought their songs from Africa, songs that evolved into the blues as they sang of their struggles and dreams. Charlie Patton, often called the father of the Delta Blues, is a name that echoes through Mississippi's musical history. Born near Jackson, the birthplace of Elvis Presley, Patton's life was shaped by the land and the people around him. He grew up on the Dockery Plantation, a place that was both home and a world of its own. The plantation, founded in a swamp, gave its tenants a mule and some land, but they were tied to the company store, a cycle of debt that was hard to break. Patton's songs told stories of the world he knew, the struggles, the beauty, and the pain. His music was raw, real, and deeply connected to the life around him. While Patton was creating his unique sound, other musicians were also finding their voices. Oscar Hammerstein's song All Man River from the musical Showboat, performed brilliantly by Paul Robeson, celebrated the Mississippi's bounty, but also highlighted the harsh realities of life as a worker on its banks. It was a brave statement in a time when such truths were often ignored. The routine of life in the South was marked by hard work during the week, and weekends spent in juke joints, rough but vibrant places where people danced, drank, and sang about their lives. These songs were not just entertainment, they were stories of survival and resilience. Take the story of Casey Jones, a railroad hero whose tragic death became the stuff of legend. His bravery in the face of disaster turned him into a folk hero, with songs that remembered him long after his train crashed near Vaughn, Mississippi. The railroad, with all its dangers, was a central part of life in the region. Artists like Arthur Big Boy Crudup emerged from this rich tapestry of music and struggle. Born in Forest, Mississippi, Crudup's music was a blend of his experiences and the world around him. His song That's All Right, recorded in 1946, would later become a cornerstone of rock and roll, recorded by Elvis Presley among others. Yet Crudup himself did not reap the rewards of his influence, a common tale in the music industry. Jackson, the capital of Mississippi, is a city with a rich, if tumultuous, history. Torched multiple times during the Civil War, it rose again, a testament to resilience. Today, it's a city that feels the pulse of the blues, a genre born from the very soil of Mississippi. To the north lies Clarksdale, often called the birthplace of the blues. It was here that W.C. Handy, a songwriter, was inspired by a guitar player's unique sound. Handy took that sound and turned it into Yellow Dog Blues, a song that captured the essence of the Mississippi Delta. Elvis Presley, who grew up listening to R&B performers at the Handy Theater in nearby Memphis, would later carry the torch of this musical legacy. As we explore the deep roots of Mississippi's culture, it's clear that the state's history is intertwined with the music that came from it. The blues, born from struggle and hope, is a sound that continues to resonate, a reminder of a past that shaped the present. To understand the connection between Elvis Presley and the revered blues singer Robert Johnson, we need to delve into the rich history of the blues and the legends that shaped it. Robert Johnson, born in 1911 in Hazlehurst, Mississippi, was a pivotal figure in the blues world. His mysterious life and untimely death only added to his mystique. Many stories surround his life, but one tale stands out: the story of making a deal with the devil. According to legend, at the crossroads of Highways 49 and 61 in Clarksdale, Johnson met the devil himself. This figure, described as a large black man, tuned Johnson's guitar and sang with him before vanishing. This story, whether true or not, deeply influenced Johnson's music and his persona. Johnson's influence on Elvis Presley might seem puzzling at first, especially considering the vast difference in their backgrounds and the eras they represented. However, music often transcends time and boundaries. Elvis, known as the King of Rock and Roll, was deeply rooted in blues music, and Robert Johnson was one of its greatest icons. Elvis recorded a version of Johnson's song Milk Cow's Calf Blues, showing how Johnson's music reached across genres and generations. The blues, with its raw emotion and storytelling, had a profound impact on many musicians, including Elvis. The genre allowed artists to express struggles, desires, and the human condition in a way that resonated with people. When Elvis recorded Johnson's songs, he was tapping into this deep well of emotion and history. It wasn't about the devil, it was about respecting and honoring the music that came before him. The story of Robert Johnson also touches on themes of tragedy and loss. Johnson's death in 1938 at the young age of 27, under mysterious circumstances, only added to his legend. He died not because of a deal with the devil, but because of poisoned whiskey, a tragic end that cut short a promising career. His burial in an unmarked grave, later honored by Janis Joplin, highlights the often overlooked struggles of blues musicians. Sam Cooke, another giant of music, also has a fascinating story. Born in Clarksdale, Mississippi in 1931, Cooke's voice was powerful and versatile. He started his career with the gospel group The Soul Stirrers, but soon ventured into secular music. His songs like You Send Me became huge hits, but it was A Change Is Gonna Come that truly showcased his ability to address social issues through music. Inspired by the civil rights movement, Cooke bravely sang about hope and change, demonstrating how music could be a force for social good. Tragically, Cooke's life ended in a misunderstanding in 1964. After a dispute over stolen clothes and money, he was shot by a motel owner who feared for his life. While conspiracy theories exist, the most likely explanation is that the owner, frightened by Cooke's angry and disheveled state, acted in self-defense. This sad ending reminds us that even the most talented and influential figures can face unexpected tragedy. The connection between Elvis and Robert Johnson and the broader narrative of blues musicians like Sam Cooke illustrates the deep roots and far-reaching influence of blues music. These artists, despite their differences, shared a common thread, a profound connection to the music and its history. Elvis's recordings of Johnson's songs were not just about covering a classic, they were a tribute to the legacy of the blues and the musicians who shaped it. In the end, the story of Robert Johnson and his impact on Elvis Presley is not about a literal deal with the devil, but about the enduring power of music to connect people across time and space. It's a reminder of the importance of honoring the past while creating the future, a lesson that resonates as much today as it did when those first blues notes filled the air in the Mississippi Delta. Mississippi is a place rich in music and history, though it's often seen as a simple area with not much going on, but this couldn't be further from the truth. Let's explore some of its musical magic and stories. First, there's Clarksdale, a small town near where Elvis Presley was born. It's a place where music flows like the rivers nearby. In 1933, a baby boy named Harold Lloyd Jenkins arrived, who later became known as Conway Twitty. He chose this name by looking at maps, finding a Conway in Arkansas and a Twitty in Texas. Conway Twitty went on to become a famous country singer. People thought his song "It's Only Make Believe" was sung by Elvis himself because it was so similar to Elvis's style. In fact, Conway wrote it after hearing Elvis sing another song, and it became a huge hit. Elvis even sang it differently, making it his own trademark style. Clarksdale isn't just about Elvis. It's a musical city that celebrates the blues every year with a big festival. You can stay at the Shack Up Inn, which lets you feel like a real sharecropper, though some might think this takes the heritage a bit too far. Morgan Freeman, the famous actor, opened a fancy restaurant there, but it closed after a few years. Moving a bit south to Greenwood, we find another music legend, B.B. King. Born Riley B. King, he started out as a sharecropper but moved to Memphis to become a musician. He became famous as the King of Blues and even played with Elvis on one of his songs. B.B. King was known for his incredible guitar, which he called Lucille, and he played over 15,000 gigs in his life. Not far from Greenwood is Greenville, the birthplace of Jim Henson, the creator of the Muppets. His toys and characters like Kermit the Frog brought joy to many, even making an appearance in a funny Elvis-themed sketch. Near Greenwood, in a small town called Winona, Roebuck Staples grew up. He started playing guitar by listening to blues legends like Charlie Patton. His family, including his sisters, formed a group that sang spiritual songs and original hits, influencing bands like the Rolling Stones. Further along in the town of Chickasaw County, where Bobby Gentry was born, we find the story of Ode to Billy Joe. This song became a huge hit, despite the fictional story behind it. Bobby Gentry, with her unique style, brought a fresh sound to music in the 1960s. Now let's talk about how people in the South speak. Some folks outside of Mississippi might make fun of the way people there talk, using words like y'all and saying things like fixin' to do, but these are just part of their culture. For example, instead of saying ain't, they say isn't, and they use terms like a mess of to mean a lot of something. These phrases show their rich history and way of life. Education in Mississippi didn't become mandatory until 1982, which is pretty late compared to other places. However, the state has cultural treasures like the University of Mississippi, also known as Ole Miss. This university has a long history, even if it faced tough times during the Civil War and when it first allowed black students in the 1960s. William Faulkner, a famous writer, lived nearby in Oxford. He wrote about this area, calling it Yoknapatawpha County, and his stories like The Sound and the Fury show the deep roots and complex history of the South. His home in Oxford is now a place where people can visit and learn more about his life and work. Mississippi might be seen as simple, but it's filled with music, stories, and history that run deep like the Mississippi River itself. From blues to country, from writers to musicians, this state has given the world a lot to cherish and enjoy.